I I wanted, because I didn't have the expertise, but I wanted to have content, and so the show and doing the interview allows me to associate myself with these experts. And even though I'm just the interviewer, they view me, with very similar credibility as the expert, right? Because we're associated. And yeah, and that, whenever you're an educator, like I mentioned earlier, we all been brainwashed to see our teachers as the as an authority. And so, so when you're a Facebook group leader and then you're an educator, like that just elevate your authority way higher. Okay. And yeah, you when you interview, and then if you're gonna do the interview style, when you interview experts, like you are associated with that expert, right? They feel like the audience feel like the subject matter well, because you're talking with other people who know the subject matter well. And one of my favorite reasons why doing the show, that I didn't really think about at first, but it turns out to be the best lead generation tool that I have used in my business. Every week when I'm interviewing an expert, the the either the expert's name or the expert's track record, help me attract new people. I attract, their people, I attract my people. And and having a new expert each week just give that variety, so they don't have to hear me every single week. It gets boring, and so it allows me to generate a lot of leads that way. Okay. And yeah, it's a great nurturing tool, especially when you do it weekly. It's you stay top of mind for them every single week. Okay. In the beginning, I was not an expert, and so I invited other experts, and you can do the same thing as well. Okay. And when I reach out to the expert, I let them know that I have a Facebook group. I'm a Facebook group owner, and I would like to interview them. This allows me, because I have a Facebook group, and in the beginning it was a very small group, but no one ever asked me how big my group is. But it allows me to interview some of the top fund managers and syndicators in our industry, which then helps a lot with attracting more investors to me. Yeah, think of it this way. Like, if you look at Joe Rogan, all he does is interview people, or Larry King, all he does is interview people, right? Or even Oprah. But all of those people, even though they're just the interviewer, not the expert, they have a ton of credibility, sometimes even more than the expert. Okay. And you see these people as leaders, and you trust them, right? You trust what they have to. If they bring someone on an interview, like, you trust their decision of picking the right person to interview. And oftentimes we'll watch an interview, and we never ever go check out the expert. We just stay with the like, let's say I watch a lot of Joe Rogan's videos on YouTube, for example. I rarely go to the experts that he interviewed. I just stay on his channel and watch other interviews, right? So that's the power of, okay. Um, you can do this as simple as possible. Like, don't even now, even after 3 years now, my setup is pretty simple. Right now, I'm doing this video on one MacBook laptop, okay, and I'm using the laptop webcam. I'm using the laptop mic. I'm not doing any kind of special equipment right now. Okay. Now, for my so this and when I'm traveling, this is it. This is how I do my show when I'm traveling. If anything, I might use my AirPod here. If there's like more noise in the background, I might use my AirPod here. But other than that, you really don't need anything more fancy. And when I'm in my office, which I am right now, and I would use this mic right here, okay, which gives it a more warm sound, because when people are listening to your podcast, the quality of the audio is very important, much more so than when they're watching your video. When I'm doing a video like this, I'm not too worried about the mic, is because my my video is this the video is distracting you, so you're not picnicking on the voice. But when you listen to a podcast where there is no video, that voice just that audio becomes way more important. Okay. And yeah, you can do very minimum editing. If if you time it right, you might not even need to do editing at all. But there are a lot of tools out there that you can use to edit very easily now these days. Like this Loom tool that I'm using is very easy tool to edit. There's a software called Descript, Descript. Descript is a tool that you can edit videos very easily just by editing the text, like your transcript, and it'll automatically edit the video for you. There's another free tool called CapCut. that allows you to edit videos very, very easily as well. So let me show you what what my setup looks like. Okay, so behind me here, where you see the light, is that ring light right there that you see. Okay, and like I said, I have this mic right next to me, and that computer that you're looking at right now in the picture, that's the computer I'm using to do this recording right now. And behind me, it's just they call it a step and repeat sign. Okay, it's just like a fabric sign that I use to put my logo on, and that's my, like, if I tilt this up, for example, that's my ceiling up there. Okay, and yeah, that's pretty simple, pretty simple setup. That you get to see. Okay, and this is after 3 years and after millions of over $10 million raised. My setup is still very simple. You don't really need anything fancy. I'm lucky I have carpet in this room, so I'm not worrying about, like, soundproofing the room. So that's a plus. If you avoid using like a tile floor, because the sound will bounce everywhere. So yeah. Okay, in terms of preparation for the show, I prepare the questions once. I use ChatGPT to help me with creating like a list of questions. On here I have 22 questions, but I rarely ask 22 questions. My very first interview I just went through one question at a time. So question answer, question answer. I didn't have any transitions or any of that stuff. But I have learned to just use this as a reference, and I will pick and choose from these lists of questions to ask based on how the guest answers my questions. Okay, and yeah, so once you create this list of questions once, that's it. You don't have to recreate it every time. And the one key thing that you want to keep in mind is, like, really have yourself enjoy the interview. Like, get really curious about the person you're interviewing, about what they have to share. So I try to be, put on that student hat, even if I might know their topic and I might know them well. But I ask questions a lot of times as if I don't know the answer. And so, the more curious I am, the better the interview. My best interviews come from when I'm just very curious, like I'm like dying to learn what they have to say, right? And yeah, so when you're into that, when you look at the interview from that curiosity perspective, you don't have much to prepare really, right? You're just being yourself on that call. And in the beginning, for the first year, maybe even 2 years, I would get nervous before each call, and I would have to do jumping jacks or push-ups just to, calm my nerves down. And so now that I'm doing it for 3 years, I don't have to do that anymore. But that's how it works, right? And so some of you might get on camera and you don't have a single nervousness in your bones, and some of you might be like me, where you might be very nervous for the first couple of years of doing this. I hope you're not as nervous as I am, because 2 years was a long time to be nervous. But yeah, that's just how it works sometimes. Okay, and you when it comes to do the show, you have two options. You can either do the show live, like the way I do mine. I have a live audience. I love it that way because I get a lot of energy from the live audience while I'm doing the interview. And I structure my show as a 2 hour show. Yours doesn't have to be this long. A lot of people structure their show only 30 minutes or maybe an hour. But the reason why I do mine for 2 hours is because I want to be able to have networking sessions. I want the audience to be able to ask questions to the experts. I want the audience to be able to introduce themselves. And so that's the reason why I structure it this way. So you can model after mine if you want to, or you can just, do something different, right? And yeah, so the first 10 minutes, I allow people to introduce themselves, which gives it some time for people who come on late an opportunity to get on. So by the time I start doing the interview with the expert, we have a good amount of people on the call. And so the interview will go for roughly about 50 minutes, sometimes longer, sometimes shorter. And then we open up for Q&A. And depending on how many questions the audience have, it's about 15 to 30 minutes. And then after the Q&A is over, I put people into small breakout sessions where they can do networking in a small group of like 5-6 people per group. And usually we have about 40 to 60 people on the live Zoom, and then so that that breaks into a bunch of small groups. Okay. The call to action, like at the end of the show, is for them to book a call with either me or one of my team members so we can get to